Tonight, interest in a local Grey Cup wanes as the Saskatchewan Roughriders limp through the season. And a virologist says people should treat COVID boosters as required as new variants of the virus emerge. Plus, a rally turned celebration. A Saskatoon woman who traveled to Ottawa praises a new federal disability benefit.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It's Wednesday, October 19th. CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening, and thanks for joining us. Federal Finance Minister offered this dire warning today. Canada's inflation rate and the efforts to bring it under control mean there will be more difficult days ahead. Chrystia Freeland says the country's economic growth will slow down. Unemployment will go up. CBC's David Cochrane has the details.
A blunt warning from the Deputy Prime Minister. Times are tough. They're about to get tougher.
Our economy will slow as the central bank continues to step in to tackle inflation.
Soaring inflation is the biggest challenge on Freeland's plate as Canadians struggle to fill theirs due to rising costs on everyday essentials such as food, where price hikes are north of 11%.
Low-income people are just they're just getting overwhelmed by these higher food prices. A lot of their more limited income is going to food, so they're really being hit the hardest.
The solution is to let the Bank of Canada attack the problem by raising interest rates, which creates pressures in other ways.
Mortgage payments will rise. Business will no longer be booming. Our unemployment rate will no longer be at its record low.
Inflation has dropped from record highs of 8.1% this summer to 6.9% today. But with a target rate of 2%, that's like a car doing 69 in a 20 zone. It's slowing down, but still way too fast.
Oral questions, question orale.
The result, says the opposition, of the government's lead-foot approach to spending.
The Royal Bank says that the average family will pay $3,000 more in inflation and higher interest rates. These are the results of the $500 billion of inflationary deficits.
From this point, the spending will be limited. Any assistance focused.
We can't support every single Canadian in the way we did with the emergency measures that we put in place at the height of the pandemic.
Instead, the focus will be low-income Canadians, those most acutely affected by inflation. Already, the government is boosting programs like the GST rebate and rental assistance. Any future help will follow that pattern to avoid adding fuel to the inflationary fire. David Cochrane, CBC News, Ottawa.
A Saskatoon nonprofit organization that helps people through tough times says it's struggling too. As Teresa Kleem reports, it's now the one asking for help.
Thank you.
Rising food prices have been a challenge for many people in Saskatchewan and for the organizations trying to help. Chep Good Food is a non-profit that focuses on food security. For example, its community market sells fresh produce at affordable prices. It also delivers food to schools for breakfast and lunch programs. But now the organization is the one facing a crisis.
Inflation for us is important because we purchase all the food that we use in programming and deliver to schools and so on, and we deliver most of it. So the cost of delivery, the cost of food, we have a lot of upfront costs.
After gas prices shot up earlier this year, Statistics Canada says prices at the pump dropped in September. But Canadians continue to feel the pinch from higher food prices. In Saskatchewan, the Consumer Price Index climbed by 7% between September of last year and this year. The Saskatoon Food Bank says it's seeing more people who need help to put food on their tables.
We're seeing people from in all kinds of different situations from all walks of life who are struggling. Definitely see a number of folks who are working and not able to make ends meet.
The rising costs have forced Chep Good Foods to already suspend one of its programs. It will no longer pack food hampers called Good Food Boxes for residents.
We're at a crisis now where it just caught up. Like we've seen this coming for 18 months. It's not a surprise to us.
If nothing changes financially, the organization says it might have to halt more of its programming and temporarily close its doors. Theresa Klim, CBC News, Saskatoon.
The Saskatchewan NDP is again asking the provincial government to use increased revenues to support family doctors. For the second time in less than 2 months, opposition leader Carla Beck held a news conference calling for something to be done. A Saskatchewan Health Authority database shows there were no family doctors in Saskatoon accepting new patients last month. The opposition wants the provincial government to spend part of what it's calling windfall revenues to support the healthcare sector. Beck was joined by health critic Vicky Mowat in Saskatoon today. Mowat says when too many people are without a family doctor, it puts strain on the healthcare system.
Now reached the point here in Saskatoon, the province's largest city, where there isn't a single family doctor taking new patients. Not a single one. And unfortunately, this problem also isn't isolated to our largest city. It's the exact same scenario that is playing out in communities across our province.
That's why we're calling on the government to immediately deploy windfall revenues to support family doctors and primary care clinics today. And in the medium term, we're calling on government to review the fee-for-service model that compensates doctors that is clearly not working to support primary care needs in our communities.
Last month, the provincial government announced a plan to recruit and retain more healthcare workers, particularly in rural areas. They committed to spend $60 million. A Saskatchewan woman traveled to Ottawa for a rally at Parliament Hill today. It turned into more of a celebration after the House of Commons passed Bill C-22. It will pave the way for a new federal disability benefit.
Today I'm so happy that we have been heard.
Yes.
Quinn Smith-Windsor and her father were pleasantly surprised when the bill passed unanimously. The new Canada Disability Benefit would provide a monthly payment for low-income people with disabilities. Smith-Windsor's father, Alan Osediak, says many people with disabilities live below the poverty line, despite receiving provincial assistance.
Everybody that's affected by disability, this will help them to live sort of, above the poverty line. And
the spirit of that is to backfill what people actually need to get to the poverty line, and really not to obviously not live exorbitant or lavish lifestyles, but at least have enough income to pay their bills, to pay their gas, to buy their groceries, to get around, bus passes or transportation if possible. Essentially, get people off of out of poverty, but have a somewhat normal existence.
Smith-Windsor recently lost access to her disability benefit from the province when she enrolled in university. The province says post-secondary students need to seek all other possible sources of income before relying on the benefit. The family is appealing the decision. Regina residents are a step closer to a user pay model for garbage, recycling, and yard waste pickup. Right now, recycling fees show up on people's utility bills, and garbage collection is included in property taxes. The city's executive committee looked at 4 different pay options. It decided user pay would be the most effective for diverting waste from the landfill. Residents would be able to pay less for a smaller garbage bin. Yard waste pickup begins in the fall. If approved by City Council, the new pay system would take effect in 2024. Saskatoon is also moving to a user pay model that year. For the second straight day at Roughriders practice, Mason Fine led the team's offense, not Cody Fajardo. Head coach Craig Dickinson confirmed Fine will start against the Stampeders this Saturday. He hopes Fine will provide the spark the team needs. They've lost the last 5 games. The game against the Stampeders will be Fine's first pro start. He has thrown the ball about 40 times on backup duty this year, but playing quarterback in Saskatchewan seems meant to be for Fine. His college team at North Texas University is actually called Mean Green, and he was coached there by former Rider QB Graham Harrell.
I know, I kind of joked earlier because last year we always broke down to like Riderville or just Rough Riders, and then this year some of the guys started breaking down to Mean Green, which is exactly what we did at North Texas because they're Mean Green. So it was like, wow, this is bringing me back memories and flashbacks. So yeah, it's pretty neat, pretty cool.
For the must-win game against Calgary, the Riders will get one of their players back from the injured list. Jamal Morrow has missed the last 6 games because of a broken hand. He was on pace for a 1,000-yard season until the setback.
I don't try to be too reckless, but I don't know. I mean, that's kind of like a one-cut back. It's the guy that wants to, get at the ball, get up the field, and so, but I do like to be versatile, in terms of, getting outside, being, in the passing game as well. So I like to be, versatile, I'd say like that. But, just something, I always just want to be, a part of the game and being able to, like I said, help our team win.
It'd just be nice to have a veteran back there, a guy that's been there and done that. And he's going to be rusty, though. I mean, he hasn't played in a couple months, but we're happy to have him back. Excited to get him some touches.
The Riders' performance and playoff prospects are cooling some people's enthusiasm for the Grey Cup. It kicks off exactly a month from tomorrow. Reporter Laura Sharpaletti has more on those who are taking a pass.
The 109th Grey Cup game was listed as sold out at Mosaic Stadium, but now some people are ticket dumping. It may be a cash grab in some cases, but others have lost interest.
I went off and started watching the NFL, so I lost interest in the CFL, unfortunately.
Others haven't made up their mind if they'll attend the Grey Cup.
Currently unsure. I mean, if the Riders were in a better position, I'd be all game for it, but because they're not, I don't really care very much.
Online, some Saskatchewan Reddit users say they're shocked the Grey Cup is charging volunteers $80 to do that job. Meanwhile, one user says, not going and not volunteering. I did both last time it was there. I feel less invested in the Riders and might watch this one from home. Another Reddit user says, if Saskatchewan was playing, I would have kept my tickets, but there is pretty good demand from Winnipeg right now, and the Saskatoon Regina commute and sleepover is too expensive to justify watching other teams play.
Many hotels in Regina are fully booked during the Grey Cup. However, this Days Inn says they do have a wait list. But when a room becomes available and they try to fill it, some waitlisters are telling them that they're no longer interested in the room or they have to think about it.
They're not jumping at the fact that we have a room available. They're asking for some time to think about it, to let me know in like the next few days. So I think they're a little unsure if they're still going to come or not. But that excitement when people were first wanting to be on the waiting list I'm noticing a difference.
CBC reached out to the Rough Riders and the CFL about where the Grey Cup stands with volunteers and ticket resales. They told us they would not comment on the Grey Cup at this time. Laura Sharpaletti, CBC News, Regina.
The Treaty 4 and Métis Nation flags rose above Casino Regina today to the beats of Red Dog Drum Group. They'll now fly permanently above the building. Sask Gaming says they are symbols of its commitment to truth and reconciliation. 40% of Sask Gaming staff are Indigenous. That's the highest of any Crown sector. A flag-raising ceremony will happen at Casino Moose Jaw at a later date. We'll be back after the break.
This weather update is brought to you by Capital GMC Buick Cadillac. 22 model clear-out is on now.
Weather specialist Ethan Williams joins us from Saskatoon tonight. Hello, Ethan.
Hello, Natasha, and boy,
What a beautiful night we have in Saskatoon. No jacket for me at 6:15 on October 19th. I think that's a pretty good deal. Lots of people out here without jackets on tonight as well in the Meewasin Valley. And it's been warm across the province. In fact, we've had some records broken. Let's take a look at our records. Most of these in northern Saskatchewan, in places like Buffalo Narrows and Meadow Lake, getting over 20 degrees. La Ronge, that record is nearly a 100-year-old record, in fact, that you broke yesterday. And even Stony Rapids, way up north, you tied the record of 12 degrees. Big departure from normal highs today across south and central Saskatchewan, really across the entire province. This does not include the north, but really all of us 10 plus degrees above where we should be this time of year. And even at this hour, we are sitting still very warm across much of the province. A little bit of a cool down happening, but for this time of day at this time of year, like I say, very, very nice. Now that is about to change a little bit. Our upper atmospheric pattern going to be changing as we head into Thursday. That jet stream is going to be dropping south somewhat, and then as we get into the end of the work week, you can see those reds and yellows and oranges changing over to those darker blue colors as we head to Friday and into Saturday. Let's take a look at our precipitation for the next little while here. Tonight we are looking at the possibility of some rain moving through the very far north of the province. I think the rest of us should be staying dry for the most part. Tomorrow, there is a chance that we could see some showers moving through the central portion of the province. That won't likely amount to too much, just a chance of showers. And then heading into Friday, this is really where things start to get a little bit unstable. We'll see cloud cover mostly for us, and then heading through the weekend, we could get some rain and yes, even some snow heading especially in toward the Sunday, Monday time period. Our forecast wind gusts for the next little while here. Tomorrow, I think, is going to be a pretty breezy day. We're looking for gusts roughly between 40 and 60 kilometers an hour out of the northwest, maybe getting up to around 70 kilometers in some places. But as we head into Friday, those will start to back off a little bit. It's been a bit of a hazy day in central and northern Saskatchewan. Some forest fire smoke lingering, but as we go through the day tomorrow, I think the heaviest of that will be in kind of west central and northwestern portions of the province before it finally starts to move out as we head into Friday. And then we should get some clearing conditions and a mix of sun and cloud, at least for Regina, as you can see here in our 7-day forecast. We're having another nice day tomorrow, I think, in Regina. Temperatures will be nice in the south, but then things very quickly begin to drop off, and that is the same in Saskatoon, where I think Saskatoon will avoid the brunt of the moisture moving in Sunday, Monday. I think it's southern Saskatchewan that is going to be seeing it the most. A little cooler in tomorrow in Saskatoon and central Saskatchewan, but then, Natasha, those temperatures start to drop. But let's not focus on that because we have a beautiful night out here tonight.
It's nice to see it. Thank you so much, Ethan. Their mother may have told them to finish all of their vegetables, but these siblings are picky eaters. For several weeks, workers at a zoo in Japan have been trying to persuade two giant pandas to eat their carrots. Zookeepers say the one-year-old twins will likely come around at some point, but for now, they're on a steady diet of apples and bamboo. Stay with us. Researchers at the University of Regina say they've detected 2 new Omicron variants in the city's wastewater. They say that could be part of the reason we're seeing an increase in COVID cases here. To understand what that means for Saskatchewan, we've reached Angela Rasmussen in Saskatoon. She's a virologist and researcher with the University of Saskatchewan's Vaccine and Infectious Disease Organization. Hi, Angela.
Hi, Natasha.
Thanks for joining us. So what can you tell us about these new subvariants and what their impact might be?
So these 2 new Omicron subvariants are one of a handful of these different subvariants, kind of like an alphabet soup of different Omicrons that are spreading around the world. And these are 2 of them called BQ1.1 and BQ1.11. Essentially, what you need to know is that they are derivatives of different Omicron subvariants. Essentially, they're new versions of Omicron that potentially could cause a surge as we move into the winter months.
Okay, so as we are moving more indoors, what should people be thinking of, especially in light of these new subvariants?
So I think the thing that people really need to be thinking about first and foremost is what their vaccine strategy is going to be moving into these months. So in Canada now, we have an option to take 2 new bivalent boosters. These bivalent boosters are actually specific for Omicron. So they should increase our protection against different Omicron subvariants, including the 2 described here. Now, many people have not had any kind of booster, or if they have had a booster, it was with the original recipe vaccine. If it has been 4 months since your most recent case of COVID, or 4 months since your most recent dose of a vaccine, then you should be really thinking about getting a bivalent booster, because everything that we do know to date about booster shots is that they do confer increased protection against both infection and severe disease caused by the Omicron family of subvariants. The bivalent booster should actually increase protection against infection from both of these subvariants that have been detected. So that's really something that people are going to be wanting to think about first and foremost as we move into these months where cold and flu viruses like SARS coronavirus 2 and influenza virus for that matter are more likely to surge.
You referenced the uptake in the bivalent vaccines or boosters in general there. What are you seeing or thinking in terms of people's attitudes towards protecting themselves against COVID now that we're, 2.5 years into the pandemic?
So understandably, people are very, very tired of SARS coronavirus 2, as am I. I think a lot of people have thought that maybe boosters aren't really necessary or that they're optional. And really, all the data that we have about boosters, including about boosters that were formulated towards the original virus, is that they really do substantially increase your protection. So really, people don't need to be thinking about boosters anymore as something they might do if they have time. People really should be thinking about boosters as something that they absolutely should do, especially as we move into this time of year when it's more likely that you're going to be exposed to circulating strains of COVID. Now, especially with the bivalent boosters, people really should know that these boosters are more specific for the variants that are circulating among us now. So they should provide additional protection on top of the protection that we already know that boosting provides. Therefore, boosters are not optional. Boosters really need to be the cornerstone of anybody's winter strategy for dealing with respiratory viruses and minimizing their risk as to getting COVID.
Thank you for that, Angela.
My pleasure.
That's Angela Rasmussen. She's a virologist and researcher with the University of Saskatchewan's Vaccine and Infectious Disease Organization. Ethan joins us again from Saskatoon for one last look at our forecast.
And it's going to be a pretty nice night, Natasha. I think a lot of us going to be quite warm. Let's start with a look at Regina at midnight tonight. And we are going down to around 3 degrees, partly cloudy conditions. Winds should be fairly light. And by the time we get to tomorrow morning, we're up to 5 degrees. Cloud cover is going to build in a little bit. And then as we head toward the noon hour, it looks like we'll be completely cloudy, getting up to around 14. But we should be at a high of around 18 come the afternoon. And we should see some breaks of sunshine in there. Saskatoon, looking at partly cloudy conditions, very warm at midnight, 8 degrees. By the time we get to tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., we'll drop to only very short or a little bit to around 7 degrees with some mostly cloudy conditions. And then by the time we get to the noon hour, we are looking for full cloud cover, and there could also be a chance of showers in there. But in the meantime, Natasha, great night to get out and enjoy this beautiful weather we're having.
Thanks, Ethan. That's it for us tonight. For news anytime, head to cbc.ca/sask. You can also subscribe to the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel. Glenn Reed will be back with more local news at 11. Thanks for watching and have a great night.